Look, we got some other extraordinary video coming out of Bangkok as well. This is of one of the many high-rises that are really pre-positioned in a way to absorb earthquake activity just like this. Notice the pool at the top of this high-rise building and look at the water sloshing back and forth and spilling over the edges. Sometimes in these newly constructed buildings, they actually utilize pools at the tops of these high-rises to dampen earthquake activity. It is acting as it's supposed to in this particular situation, and I just find this type of video extraordinary to show you the engineering feats that are in play here for these earthquake-prone areas. But of course, we've seen the not so fortunate buildings that have collapsed, the pancaking effect from the violent shaking that has occurred from this magnitude 7.7. So we're going to recap for people who are just now tuning in following this major breaking news of a significant earthquake that struck the central portions of Myanmar, 7.7. This happened roughly around 12:50 in the afternoon local time on March 28th. But what's interesting to note is the depth of this earthquake, and I'm going to explain why. That is a shallow natured earthquake, and that is significant. Don't need to be an expert to really understand this. The fact that it is so shallow, it is near the surface, the shaking is going to ripple out in all directions. So it will be more felt towards the surface versus if this was a deeper focal point of an earthquake. That means that the ground would absorb the shaking. Unfortunately, that results in significant damage in the locations where people live. So there's three different types of fault lines that traverse the entire planet. There's the normal fault lines that separate during an earthquake, a reverse type of fault line, but what took place here in Myanmar is known as a strike slip. So the Sagaing Fault runs parallel right through Myanmar. If you look at a map on the USGS website, you can see it. This actually moves about 18 millimeters per year. So in a course of a decade, it moves about 7 inches. So let's say you were to build a fence across this very fault line here in Myanmar, for instance. In 10 years' time, you would have a 7-inch separation just by the pure nature of its movement over time. Remember, 18 millimeters per year sounds like a little, but that's quite significant because there's a lot of pent-up energy that is associated with that strike slip motion that I showed you on the graphics a moment ago. So that explodes or erupts into a significant earthquake at some point in time, and it just happened to be about 6 hours ago. And look at the number of people that felt the shaking, just incredible. Nearly 90 million people felt at least light to weak shaking. But when we're talking about the real serious business stuff, the severe to violent shaking, several million people in and around the epicenter here felt the shaking. And you bet there will certainly continue to be aftershocks going forward, and we need to brace ourselves for a high fatality event, especially when we compare this to previous similar events, and I'm thinking about 2023 in Turkey.